I'd like to welcome you today to this webinar regarding kicking off your PBIS school year, which is School-Wide Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, presented by Andre Terrett. My name is Toni Hollingsworth, by the way. I'd like to turn the stage over to Andre Terrett, our presenter, and thank you, Andre, for coming in and doing this today.
Thank you very much, Toni. I appreciate your introduction and welcome everyone to the Reach Mississippi Summer Webinar Season 2014, where we're into webinar number 4 of 5 this summer. Today's webinar is entitled Kicking Off Your PBIS School Year. And before we get too far into it, I'd like to introduce myself to those that don't know me or aren't familiar with me from some of our trainings. I am Andre Terrett, one of the technical assistant specialists with Reach Mississippi since June 2013. Prior to that, I was a district-level PBIS coach in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I've been an educator for a little over 12 years now. My academic background is primarily in technology. I'm also a certified counselor, federal grant administrator, and minister. I enjoy acting as well as spending time with my family. I've most recently performed the role of Hope Colburn in Driving Miss Daisy, Dr. Spivey in the Christian comedy Occupy This, and Pastor Thomas in the melodrama Consequences. This webinar has been approved for 0.5 CUs. However, in order to get those CUs, you have to have participated in all 5 webinars over the summer series. The webinar sessions took place from June through August of this year, and the total fee for the CUs is $20. Now, in order to process your CUs, we'll need you to complete the following steps. You have to participate in all 5 summer webinar sessions. At the end of the 5th session, you're going to print out your CU evaluation and information form, complete that form in its entirety, including your 5 evaluation questions and information section with your Social Security number, and mail all of that information along with your check made payable to the University of Southern Mississippi, attention Brittany Harrington, 118 College Drive, number 5057, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 39046. Your check should be made out to USM or the University of Southern Mississippi in the amount of $20. They have to be postmarked no later than August 29th in order to be acceptable. If you have any questions regarding the CU, please contact Brittany Harrington at brittany.greer@eagles.usm.edu. And don't worry if you weren't able to write all this information down. I will post this at the end of this webinar session. And to get started, I'd like to go over our objectives. The primary objective is to learn how to use planning tools to negate the habit of putting off until later. Oftentimes in education, we get bogged down with so many things that we just absolutely have to do. Everything has a timeline. It's best to plan ahead. And 2 is to begin assigning some temporary roles through the initial implementation of your PBIS school year. So first things first, evaluation. Where did you leave off with your last school year? What did you all stop doing, or where did you end up in your last school year? This will help you determine where to start this year. Every good process begins with what? An evaluation. Remember that. Every good process begins with an evaluation. The recommended evaluation tool for PBIS is the benchmark of quality. When you're implementing PBIS at your school level, I strongly encourage you, whether you're on Tier 1, 2, or 3, I strongly encourage the use of the benchmark of quality form. If you aren't familiar with that form, you can go to our website at www.usm.edu/reachms. Click on Resources or Forms and download that form, and all it takes is one form, and your entire PBIS team can fill in that form as a group. You'll go around your school, and it's basically a form that allows you to be able to see what you have in place versus what needs to be in place, and if things have been done with fidelity. If you go by that benchmark quality form from number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, by the time you completely fill that one-page form out, you should have a model school site if you completed everything with fidelity. Secondly, you want to make sure that this evaluation is a team effort. It does not need to be done by an individual. One individual's considerations of completeness may be totally different from that of the group that represents the entire body. Make sure it's a team effort. Additionally, staff interviews, parental surveys, and stakeholder surveys give you a whole lot of information. They give you a great bit of information to determine what works and what does not work, what worked last year and what may work again this year, or what you may need to tweak in order to be more successful in your goals this year. You have to be completely honest with yourself. So many times I've seen schools complete the benchmark of quality saying, oh, we scored 97, and they've only been implementing for less than 6 months. And honestly, when we have an evaluator go in, they may score 60 or 70, which they're doing pretty well. However, it takes a lot of time. It takes time to implement. So keep that in mind. There is a time factor. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your students. They deserve it, and you need it. Honesty and integrity go a long way, and they're the key to successful implementation of any process. Honesty and integrity. Ask each question as it applies to the situation. Do we have this in place? Does it need improvement? Or is it not in place at all? Could we do it better with fewer resources? That's a legitimate concern. Those are all legitimate concerns that should be discussed. Your school-wide PBIS team should be setting goals to move your school from implementation state to model site. This can also be accomplished using the PBIS benchmark of quality. Again, as I pointed out before, if you use that benchmark of quality with fidelity from beginning of school year through the end, by the end of your school year, that form should be completely filled out. Everything should be working and in place, and you should be model site ready. There are a lot of benefits to becoming a model school site. The BOQ, along with the results of the review of your school's annual data outcomes, all help to pull in or tie together the activities in your school. They help to decrease your overall office discipline referrals, the classroom management piece, as well as teaching faculty and students how to better interact with one another. An overview of your previous year's data should help determine the goals for the upcoming school year. This data helps assure quality of rules and student-teacher engagement. There's nothing like coming to a job that you enjoy coming to. And utilizing good data to make quality decisions goes a long way in making that and to making sure that happens. The action plan sets forth steps to accomplish the agreed upon goals in your school. So if you don't have steps in place to accomplish the goals that your school has set before it, then you're really just wasting your time. You're just putting words on paper without action. They're just words. They don't mean anything. They don't accomplish anything. Each team member should have a vested interest in seeing the goals come to fruition. And finally, revisit. Revisit the initial evaluation and goals that the team set to assess what worked and what didn't work. Everything that you come up with as a team won't always work, particularly if it's not based on true, honest data. Furthermore, it helps keep the team focused on the overall goal of decreasing office discipline referrals and increasing the desired student-teacher behavior in your school, particularly in your classroom, which is where the majority of students spend their time. How do you evaluate your activities? You want to ask questions. Get familiar with your school's data. Talk to your teachers. Talk to your custodians. Talk to your cafeteria workers, your secretaries, your parent liaisons. Communicate. The biggest misperception in many organizations is the thought that communication has already taken place. Somebody else did it. It's not my job. Communicate, communicate, communicate. When you evaluate situations or circumstances or venues on your campus, communicate the results of that evaluation to those people that participate in the evaluation. Let them know, how did everything turn out? Did our numbers increase? Did our numbers decrease? Did it decrease behaviors by implementing certain qualities? Did it increase inappropriate behavior? Did it increase appropriate behavior? How did we reinforce the appropriate behavior? How will we make it better, or is it better not to do it again? Again, be honest and use integrity when asking and answering these questions. Could we do more with less? This is something that all schools have to be mindful of. We don't always have unlimited budgets, particularly with today's economy looking the way it does. So are we able to do more with less? How much more likely are we to be successful if we cut back on some of the expenses while still increasing the expectation of student achievement behaviorally and academically? When you're setting goals for yourself, there are a lot of different tools that you can use. This is just one such sample that I found online. I wanted to share with you all. The website address is found right here. If you would take a moment and write this down, I know it's a little long, but you can write this address down. It's http:// don't forget the colon there, http://www.teacherspayteachers.com/and-of-year-pbis-goal-setting-and-reflection-free-598-134. This is a free document. Take a look around this website. There are a lot of great tools available at this website, but this particular one was developed to help you reflect on what worked. How do you put the pieces of the puzzle together for your school year? And it just kind of helps you reflect on what you did, what fit, what didn't fit. Ask those pertinent questions. Here are some suggested goals for kicking off your school year. Of course, we always want to focus on reducing the number of ODRs for our school. It increases the amount of instructional time, but it also teaches the lesson in a way that students can get it. Your desired behaviors are being taught to the students who may not have had that. And once we get away from the notion that, because they're in third grade, they ought to know the difference between right and wrong, or because they're in the 12th grade, they should know the difference between right and wrong. At some point, the data will show you that there was a gap in learning of certain skill sets, and we have to go back and reteach. So even though you may have that child in high school, a gap analysis will show that they missed certain behavioral, social, whether it be social or academic skills, and they just have to be retaught those particular skills. Another goal would be to decrease the number or percent of students with one or more oppositional referrals. But again, let your data guide your goal setting. This is just an example or some suggestions of what your goals should look like. Another one would be to increase the amount of staff that are satisfied, respected, and positive. These are terms that you will have to operationally define for your school. Operationally define what it means to be satisfied. Operationally define what it means to be respected or to feel positive. These are terms that will be operationally defined by your in-house PBIS team. Professional staff satisfaction contributes greatly to the overall feeling of safety in your school, as well as mutual respect for one another. When you're action planning, you really want to have things put in place. So one way to do that is to write everything down. So what from the benchmark of quality still needs improvement or to be put in place? These are the types of questions you want to begin asking your team as you all begin your action planning. What from what you did last year, do you want to continue with those improvements, or do you think you need to, or have you improved on everything that you could possibly improve on? Again, you have to ask your team these types of questions. These type of scenarios allows your team to speak openly and honestly, but also to document what worked, why it worked, and if we need to reintroduce that to our school this year. Many of our schools in the state are undergoing dramatic changes, whether it's from leadership, fiscal management, or teacher retirement and replenishment. We have to keep in mind that as change takes place, we'll have to go with the flow. And unfortunately, education has been made to do that from the very beginning. Teachers come, teachers go, students come, teachers go, leadership changes. So what information can you use from the different surveys that you're getting your data from to be more inclusive of others' ideas and to improve your school overall? And of course, listing your school goals. This helps to keep your team focused. Everybody will be on the same goal, and because you'll be emailing your action plan out to your entire school, you'll be able to get feedback on what everybody thinks about the goals that are being set through the PBIS team. So honestly, what does PBIS mean? And this particular one says that PBIS organizes adults and students to create a social culture in schools and out of school that encourages positive behavior and interaction while discouraging problem behaviors. This social culture will lead to a safer environment where students achieve academically and build positive relationships that span a lifetime. This is just my understanding of how PBIS should be life-altering. Many of our students don't get the opportunity to explore the world as some students do, and as educators, we understand through reading, exposure is what broadens perspectives. And if we can expose our children to something far greater than what they're accustomed to being exposed to, that will help them to ultimately achieve their personal lifelong goals. So how do we effectively practice implementing? Well, first, we have to start with defining. Everybody needs to speak the same language. If I'm saying effective and you're saying effective, there are two different terms with totally different meanings. We have to clearly and concisely define our behavioral expectations. That's first and foremost. Once those terms are defined, I strongly encourage you to take the next step of posting them everywhere. You need to teach them, not only to your students, but first and foremost, those behavioral expectations need to be taught to your teachers. They're the ones who are ultimately responsible. And because they've been operationally defined from the team side, then all the teachers are now saying and speaking the same language. So if an ODR comes to the office, the principal then knows what is meant when Mrs. Terry writes a student up for being disrespectful. Everybody is speaking the same language. So disrespect in this school means X, Y, and Z. That is what is understood to be meant by the word disrespect, for example. Directly and indirectly teach behavioral expectations to your teachers, students, and your parents. Very, very important factors to keep in mind. Unfortunately, we don't always consider indirect conversations with students teachable moments. But if we begin to change our thoughts around instruction, it's not always going to be something formalized. It's not always going to be in front of the classroom. Some instruction actually does take place on the playground, in the cafeteria, on the way to the bathroom, in the bathroom, in the cafeteria again. Keeping in mind, directly and indirectly, we have to teach the behavioral expectations to teachers, students, and our parents sometimes. Use daily reminders and positive supervision to grow your student understanding. This will only help to show how much you really truly support your students, and and you care for their personal success. Consistently celebrate, and I can't say that enough, consistently celebrate. Acknowledge the expected behavior. Let your students, faculty, and staff, even your parents, let them know why you're celebrating them. Why are you reinforcing that particular behavior that they're displaying right at this moment? Often, at first, you're going to have to keep in mind, initially, you have to reinforce heavily in order to get the culture changed. And less frequently, as the expression of understanding grows, that means as the population understands the growth that's taking place, now you move from the unexpected to the acceptable, then from the acceptable to the norm, okay? Because you reinforce it for long enough and everybody understands that this behavior should be the norm. And again, be correct. Consistently correct or reteach exhibited problem behavior. You have to be mindful that some students will require reteaching on a regular basis. So as we look at implementing with fidelity and kicking off our school year, what are the responsibilities of, say, your district level PBIS staff? The first thing you look at from a district perspective, who's in charge of what? This helps you to establish protocols. You'll know from the district side who is managing what. Some person may be handling finances for the district over your PBIS finances. Another person may be handling programmatic issues of PBIS at your district level. And yet another person will be handling discipline or intervention at the district level. When you're establishing protocol, consider the district PBIS coach along the same line of authority as your guidance counselor, but they have a district perspective, okay? This leaves the principal with the primary authority, however, at the school. The district PBIS coach does not have the ability, well, he does have the ability to make some helpful and oftentimes necessary decisions at the school level, but ultimate authority still lies in the hands of the local principal. Additionally, I strongly recommend the person the district PBIS coach reports to be someone with behavioral training and a degree of expertise in the field of counseling, psychology, or social work. When is the staff to be trained and how often? Prior to moving out into a district, staff should be adequately trained to properly support the district that they're serving. This means ongoing training, whether it's face-to-face, webinars, or online training. It should be built into the expectations of the role of your district-level PBIS coach. This person should be flexible enough to travel to conferences and ultimately to travel throughout their district to present new and updated findings in the area of PBIS. Though training occurs annually through Reach Mississippi, districts should also prepare for other national trainings as well. District PBIS coaches should, at a minimum, update their skill set annually. Where will training take place? The training can take place within your district and on a statewide level. Additionally, training should be provided at each school and in various locations throughout the school in order to teach the rules. And of course, what should be established? Relationships. That's the most important thing. Relationship between academic and behavioral support services should be established early on in the implementation of your PBIS initiative at your school. Again, let me repeat that. Relationship between academic support and behavioral support services. That means once you go into your data room, you should have academic data on one side, behavioral data on another side, in order to see a correlation that develops at your school level once you start utilizing proper data. That correlation between academics and behavior, they're always going to be at two different ends of the spectrum. If you have an increased academic score, you should automatically see a decreased behavioral score. So keep in mind that as you decrease inappropriate behavior, your academic achievement should increase. This helps solidify the need for data all the way around and accurate record keeping. Furthermore, it helps incoming or new principals to establish frameworks for success in their buildings. And finally, how do we afford it? It sounds expensive. PBIS does not have to be expensive. It's only as expensive as you allow it to be in your setting. Financing your PBIS implementation can be done in a number of ways, including some localized fundraising, such as writing for many grants. And when I say many, that's many, M-A-N-Y, mini grant, M-I-N-I grant. And I always encourage the use of the smaller grants because they primarily will allow you to just do what it is you want to do without a whole lot of extra paperwork, like many of the larger grants. And, of course, your internal activity fund. PBIS implementation pulls out the best in all of your educators. So be as creative as you possibly can. And when you fall short, use someone else's creativity. That's why we're here. We have to work together as a team. Personally, I encourage the use of those small grants, as I mentioned, since they tend to require less paperwork and allow time for more implementation efforts and the focus on what it is that you want to focus on rather than just doing paperwork. The responsibilities of your school-level PBIS staff, again, we're going to answer the same question. Who's in charge of what at the school level? Once you have established that protocol at your school, you're going to consider your school-level PBIS coach as the in-house authority on PBIS. They're going to be your in-house authority on PBIS. Their primary function should be to guide the implementation process at the school level with the support of the school administration team. But when is the staff to be trained and how often? Prior to going out into the school, that team leader should be adequately trained to supply proper support to that school. This means they're going to have to participate in those ongoing trainings, whether it's face-to-face, webinar, online training, things of that nature. But it should be built into the expectations of that role for the person that fills that role at your school. They should be flexible enough to travel to conferences, whether they're in district or out, and also be competent enough to pull data and correlate it in a manner that is usable to your team. Where will the training take place? Many times the same as the district level coaches. It can take place within the school itself and within your district and on a statewide level. Additionally, your training should be provided in various locations throughout the school as your rules are taught to faculty and staff at each school. What should be established? First and foremost, and we mentioned this earlier, relationship between academic and behavioral support services should be established early on in the implementation of PBIS at your school. This helps solidify the need for data and accurate record keeping. Furthermore, it helps incoming or new principals establish a framework for success in their building. We talked about a moment ago how to finance it. How do you finance it? Still the same thing. Your school-level PBIS coach can help supplement the resources coming into your school, but again, be creative. If you have challenges in the area of financing your PBIS implementation, contact your local PBIS chairperson, whether that's me or one of the other TAs, providers for Reach Mississippi. So what about the school improvement plan? Well, your school improvement plan shows, and it helps to state that your school is committed to improving behavior. That's got to be the first thing. Your school must be motivated to embark on overall school-wide change. Improving behavior must be it has to be one of your school's top 3 priorities, as demonstrated by inclusion in the school improvement plan in order to be successful. Without a priority to improve your student behavior across the entire campus, administration and faculty will struggle to proceed successfully through this process due to a lack of commitment and motivation. You need to, make sure that your school improvement plan is aligned to the school mission statement, and you want to review the content of your school improvement plan with your faculty and staff. So many times schools get caught with the principal doing all the work to develop the school improvement plan, and then after all of that hard work is done, it sits on the principal's desk or in a file in the drawer until the next time the State Department comes out to review that. Utilize that school improvement plan for what it's created for. Review that school improvement plan annually. If your school administration merely just makes a copy of the school improvement plan, then essentially they need to be quizzing the faculty to test their familiarity with the plan to see if they actually, in fact, did read it. If you're spending all this time developing it, check with your staff, challenge them, assure that they are knowledgeable of the school improvement plan. Otherwise, the plan is destined to fail from the beginning. Familiarize and educate new staff annually. Have a system in place that will help you to train new staff on the school improvement plan. I recommend that the administration review the plan and the mission statement at least annually in order to educate and familiarize new staff. Additionally, the more school administration discusses the school improvement plan, the more likely they are to achieve their goals in the school improvement plan. Keep an eye on the school improvement plan and let that guide all of the activities occurring on your campus. Be excited. Once you're implementing with Fidelity at your school, get excited. It's kind of hard to get excited about data sometimes, but be extremely creative. You're in academic learning environments, and many of us, particularly at the elementary level, are easily excitable. But once you get up to the secondary, children seem to be less excitable, parents are less excitable, teachers ultimately begin to get less excitable. Get excited about the results you're seeing. Think like an investor. Gains are gains no matter what. And if we are in the position where we want to decrease ODRs at our school by, say, 10%, if you make 5%, that's still a gain. So that's something to be celebrated. So set goals and celebrate the achievement of those goals. When you're making decisions, it can be made a lot easier if you begin using the data that's being collected at your school rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. Hypothesize the possible functions of the outcomes that you're seeing. What kind of trends are you seeing? Have open dialogue around these things. List the possible interventions that you need to address the trends that you see in your data. The intervention selection should become a part of your action plan and a part of your daily activities at your school. If you're not utilizing that data to begin making decisions, then you're losing momentum, you're losing traction at your school. And these are the types of things that begin to have principals getting bogged down with behavioral issues and just seeing students all day, every day. Describe the data trend after implementing the intervention. Was it a worthwhile intervention? Was it successful? Was it based on data? Did the intervention work because of a team effort or because of lack of a team? Describe the team. What was the approach like? If it wasn't a team effort, then select a different intervention because you never want to make it where one person is doing all of the work. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You cannot say that enough. Communicate the results of all of your work with your team. Who is your team? Every faculty and staff member at that school is a part of your PBIS team. Of course, you can't meet with them all day, every day. But when you have your once-a-month meeting, your once-a-month PBIS meeting with your staff, for example, communicate the results that you're seeing. In your data room, proudly display whether you've had an increase or decrease in one area or another, meaning your academic success or your behavioral success. Communicate those things. Where do we get the data from? Our Big Five, which refers to the office discipline referrals by month, by location, by time of day, by problem behavior, and by student. Now, in some situations, you'll see that communicating helps understand or helps people to understand or establish purpose for a certain routine. This is necessary if you want to accomplish certain daily practices in the classroom. Communicate this to your faculty and staff. Communicate it to your students. The total number of school days in a month divided by the number of ODRs from that month will help you to determine how much things are occurring in your school. So how often or how frequent certain behaviors are occurring in your school. And if you're using the software that we kind of recommend through Reach Mississippi, it's called Swift. Swift will identify certain behaviors for you, and you can utilize that data to support the choice to continue certain interventions or to change those up. Communicating the results with your stakeholders, whether you're using a brochure or sending letters home to parents, make sure you report out. Report your ODR and survey results to your staff, students, family members. Let the community know what's going on. They will totally support you when they know what's going on, whether it's good, bad, or they're indifferent about it. Let them know what you're working so hard to achieve within your school. When you achieve it, communicate. It'll silence some of your negative Nellies. It'll help people to understand and feel included and a part of the change process that's taking place, and it will make people want to still do it in the fall. And these are some of the ultimate goals of implementing with fidelity. Open and honest communication contributes to that desire to come back in the fall and just be more productive. Evaluate your staff and stakeholders. Ask them questions. Do you think PBIS is working? Why isn't it working? Why is it working? Is your school more positive than before PBIS? Do you see a difference? Explain how. Is respect still a problem at your school? How do you define respect? What challenges did you face implementing PBIS? All of these things, these are questions just to begin having the dialogue. And it's not always about the written survey, but make sure even if you're doing a public survey, you have a really good note taker there identifying how many people raise their hand to say, hey, our school is less disrespectful now that we've implemented with fidelity. Or how many people raise their hand to say, there's nothing we can do any better with our PBIS program. It's working, and that's what it does. So developing out activities. What are the desired outcome of the activity? Consider those things. How do you want your school to look as a result of that activity? That's one way to develop the activity. Who is the target population? What is the activity going to be? Is there a certain time that it should take place that's better than another? Where is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Who's responsible for everything? Who's going to clean up? Who's going to pay for this? What is the plan for rewarding the appropriate behavior? All your activities should correlate back to your expectations and rules that are being taught and be supportive of the needs based on data. When you're teaching and reinforcing behavior, keep it simple. Look, always start by defining what you expect. What is it that you expect? Do you want students to know what it means to be respectful? How do you teach that? You start off by defining it, and then you model it, and you practice it in the setting where it takes place. So if you expect students to be respectful in the hallway, take them to the hallway and allow them an opportunity to be respectful. It may take you setting up an opportunity for someone to come in and to drop all of their belongings, or to have an adult come in through the door when the whole class is trying to pass going to lunch, or, things of that nature. But give them an opportunity to practice what you're modeling for them. Monitor and acknowledge continuously. Don't just do it every blue moon when you think about it. You have to put this at the forefront of your mind and do it on a regular, ongoing basis. And again, adjust for efficiency. Sometimes you just don't have it in you, and you've got to make adjustments. How do we kick off? Good suggestions, pep rallies, rotation stations are really good. Depending on the grade level, you can do podcasts. And when I say depending on the grade level, it honestly, you can do it with kindergartners if they're friendly, if the situation, the environment is conducive to their understanding. Webinars are really good, particularly for your secondary students. You can get a student PBIS spokesperson, allow them to participate in your team meeting so that they gain an understanding, are able to take that and articulate it to their classmates. Have theme kickoffs. luau's are wonderful. Roundups, breakfast for your staff, play dates, song and dance events. They're all fun ways to kick off your PBIS initiative at your school. Keep it exciting, use data, and exciting experiences tend to be those that are remembered enthusiastically. Remember, exposure broadens perspective. Make a competition out of it. It helps them garner support, and exposure broadens the perspective and respect of each student. That's something they'll be proud of. They'll invite family and friends to, but keep it fun, keep it flowing, but keep it positive. That's the most important thing. The next slide shows a couple of helpful links, and of course, I don't expect everyone to write all of these down right now. However, once this recording has ended, it will be posted to our website, and you're able to go back through the webinar. If you want to print off certain slides, you can, or if you just want to save it to your desktop, you'll be able to do that. But I encourage you to look at some of these websites that are listed here just for resources. You can involve your school-based teams, coaches, and things of that nature to work toward common goals. Make it competitive on every level. Coaches help teams use data at each tier to determine their problems and to develop effective solutions to reinforce the desired behavior. Keep in mind, by helping to coordinate your local and school-based meetings, your district coaches aid in drawing the school-wide team together with a district expectation. If your district has certain expectations and they're not related back to the schools properly, chances are they won't be accomplished. So again, the district expectations have to be communicated back to the school. If the school doesn't know what the district-wide expectations are for behavior, then obviously there's the disconnect. So we need to begin opening up that window of communication between the district and the school. Some things that I strongly encourage everyone to remember: participate in all of your district-level PBIS meetings whenever possible. And sometimes I know those district-level meetings may be held during the day because district-level employees don't tend to have classroom settings as many class teachers do, but participate in as many as you possibly can when you can, and be mindful that the district-level coaches' task is somewhat different from the school-level coaches' task. Review research or research behaviorism. When you're reviewing the available research out there, it helps to sharpen your skills as a team leader or just an individual who wants to contribute greatly to your school's atmosphere. Additionally, it helps to develop a more professionally equipped learning environment. Your team meetings should be meeting on a monthly basis, particularly in the beginning, to implement during the implementation phase of PBIS. You may need to meet more frequently than that if data supports it, but you definitely need to meet at a minimum of once. I'm sorry. Your school-wide training, don't just attend district-wide PBIS meetings. Be a part of the meeting. Be actively engaged in your school-wide trainings. Learn from them, ask questions, help develop it at your district level. When you're developing it at the school level, translate what you're learning from your experience at your school to the district, so that way it can become incorporated into some of the expectations of your district. Your district should have some type of training at least twice annually. And finally, the protocol. Your school-level protocol should align with that of the district. That means you're going to have to work together. Be mindful of the sacred cows in your district. Some things we just cannot touch, and we have to understand that. Understand that some things are just simply beyond our control, but you can contribute to change by actively participating in the process. In summary, data makes for more effective and efficient decisions. When you're defining the problems to be solved, it helps to determine the quality of the decision. How? Again, by defining the problem up front. That will help determine the quality of the decision that's made. Your ODR by month, location, time of day, problem behavior, and per student all refer to the what? That's right, the big five. And everybody here has probably heard of that before. If you have not utilized that term, that's one of those terms that I strongly encourage you to add to your vocabulary when it comes to behavioral data terminology. Make sure your school's introduction is exciting. Keep it lively. And finally, benchmark quality. It's used to evaluate the fidelity of implementation of school-wide PBIS at your school. We have one more webinar coming up, and the date of that webinar is August 27th, 2014. It will also be from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. It's entitled Keeping the PBIS Momentum Going After the First Semester. As many educators know, many times your energy starts to wane a little bit because you're going into testing season and now you're at a crunch. You got to teach so much and you just don't feel like you have enough time left, and some things get left by the wayside. We want to kind of discuss some ways that we can keep the momentum going after the first semester of implementation of PBIS at the school. Then I'd like to do a final reminder on the CUs. Don't forget that we have one more webinar session coming up, and that's on August 27th, and that's how to keep the momentum up after the first semester. Consider attending some of our other webinars, particularly the parent training webinar on our website. Don't forget to complete and email your post-test to our external evaluators, and be sure to answer all your evaluation questions pertaining to this webinar if you're seeking CEUs. 0.5 CEUs have been approved for this webinar at a cost of $20, and if you'd like to get those CEUs, you can complete the evaluation form that was emailed to you and mail that information along with your check for $20 to the University of Southern Mississippi. Attention Brittany Harrington, 118 College Drive, Box 5057, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 39406. All of your paperwork should be postmarked no later than August 29th, 2014. All right, thank you all very much. My contact information is posted right now. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or give me a call. Thank you all again. Have a great day, everyone.